perception may be for lack of understanding of those who create the perception. And therefore, it's extremely important for those in public life, politics, policy making and media to understand the import of what we are doing. I have some reservations on the 2013 law on its content.
That's right.
Its content may hamper India's development. But it's in terms of legislative drafting that I have regarded it as one of the worst legislatively drafted legislations.
That's right.
For example, it creates a huge amount of ambiguity as to whether consent is required or not required.
That's right.
The draftsperson probably wanted to provide for consent. They ended up with a draft which probably in many cases exempts consent. Now, when they exempt consent, can private sector also participate in that or not? I am on a distinction between section 2.1 and section 2.2 of the Act. I am going to elaborate this very shortly in a written piece that I am going to say.
Right.
It creates all kinds of ambiguities. Now, those have to be corrected. For instance, on social impact assessment, if you add the various steps, it can take you to 52 months.
That's right.
But then it says not more than 6 months, not more than 3 months. Now, can that be compressed? Even if you want a social impact assessment? We honestly felt, and all the chief ministers, all the states that we consulted said, please amend it. Once we took steps to amend it, the Congress changed its stance and said we are going to oppose it. And you have a parliamentary stalemate, that's a reality. We again called the chief ministers. And the chief minister said, we want some changes. If you can do it at the center, please do it. If there is a stalemate, it's a concurrent list subject, you leave it to the states. Now, on your query, that is it a rollback or a step backwards? What did we say in section 10 in order to remove that ambiguity in the 2013 law? All we said is there are 5 purposes which are really identified with development of rural areas.
Right.
The appropriate government, which is the state government, is entitled to exempt any or all of them.
That's right.
So, under the ordinance, we empowered the states. The state said, don't empower us under the ordinance. It's a concurrent list subject. You assure us you will give consent to our proposals. The effect is actually the same. Therefore, rather than allow the parliamentary stalemate to carry on and on and on, you follow an alternative route, and that alternative route is that you empower the states by assuring them, we give you flexibility, whatever changes you want to bring out in the law, please bring out.
Fair point indeed, sir, and I get your point. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is, and a lot of people have said this, that you have the might of numbers behind you. Why is it that you did not take the opposition head on? Because the opposition has also changed its stance on this. Why is it that you did not call for a joint session of parliament and let this pass through? Because you have the enviable position of a 282.
There is a provision for a joint session. The process of the joint session is that one house accepts it, the other house rejects it. And because in the upper house, we are in a minority, the opponents probably may have had larger numbers.
That's right.
So they decided to indefinitely delay it. We therefore referred it to a select committee where there was also a stalemate. And then you have to wait for a particular period of time, which may amount to almost a year before a joint session is called. Now, should we continue to involve ourselves in the traffic jam, or should we take the bypass, which is a faster and an easier bypass with very low political costs?
Are you still hopeful of some kind of a resolution coming in the Rajya Sabha, considering this is with a panel that's a joint panel, or have you given up on the parliamentary route?
The bill to replace the ordinance is before the committee, and I'm sure there are some provisions on which a consensus change is going to be brought out.
Okay.
For instance, take a provision like if land is not the 5-year rule. I can understand if within 5 years a project doesn't commence, you restore the land back. If it's not completed, can a township be completed in 5 years?
So you'll have pockets of agriculture happening.
You will have pockets of agriculture and pockets of built-up areas. Now, these are impractical situations, and that's why I call it the worst drafted legislation ever.
Fair point.
Because in drafting perception, it doesn't actually take into consideration the realities of the situation.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.